and the Steelers, who ran into a buzzsaw known as the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. But yes, the Steelers were kind of a football 301 team this year. We had some interest in the offseason. I like Arthur Smith a lot, like his play calling a lot, always respect Mike Tomlin. Things were going well with Fields or Russell Wilson for about 2/3 of the year. And then they Steelers the second half. Then you remember, oh yeah, they don't have a real deal quarterback. Oh yeah, they don't have a real deal skill players. The defense has some holes. But Matt, as we sit here after the Steelers take another wild card loss, where are you at with the Pittsburgh yellow and black attack?
Oh man, I will admit
they're complicated.
Well, when I wrote all these teams up again, pretty much it was in the lens of like, what do they need to do next? For the Chargers, it's add offensive talent. We've talked about it. For the Denver Broncos, it's like hone the offense around Bo Nix. We'll get to them. Like some pretty straightforward stuff. For the Steelers, I wrote stare into the abyss. Because I think that's kind of where they're at right now. It's dark, it's heavy, it feels a little overly dramatic, but I mean, it just like Mike Tomlin's famous for saying the standard is the standard, and like we can all just acknowledge that in recent years, the standard is very much like, what is it? Since 2018, this team has had almost the same season every single year, outside of one in 2020 when they won the division. That was the year that Joe Burrow tore his ACL. It was also the year that, it was the COVID season. Lamar Jackson, COVID, the biggest rivalry in the NFL. They won that division that year. They still were one and done in the playoffs. But I mean, it's almost every season since then. They're just good enough, 8 to 10 wins to continue to throw out the no losing seasons to hang that banner. Mm-hmm. That's great. But they're never a needle mover in their conference. Since 2021, in their 3 playoff games since then, they have lost by a combined 49 points, 16.3 points per game to the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs. And it feels the same way every time. Yeah. Oh, great. Well, guess what? None of those 3 teams aren't going anywhere.
Those all their quarterbacks are retiring, right?
Totally. Yeah. At least they don't have future Hall of Famers, MVPs in the prime of their careers. And it doesn't matter. Like they had Russell Wilson, they had Mason Rudolph, and for a bench Kenny Pickett and Ben Roethlisberger for all 3 of those games. I mean, Ben obviously on the last legs of his career, but double-digit one-and-done playoff losses to the big boys in the AFC. That is the standard right now in Pittsburgh. And the reason that it gets really dark really quick is because tell me how they get out of this one. I have no idea, but I'll tell you what, like I know Tomlin obviously and fire Mike Tomlin's become like a thing now. I'm not here to call for Tomlin's job or anything like that, because he's part of the reason that they make it to these games every single year with a mid roster. But at the same time, I will say that if they walk into next season with Russell Wilson, which is probably what they're gonna do. They're probably going to walk into next season with Russ, because unless they get Darnold, how are they finding an upgraded quarterback?
That's
I think the last 5 games, for the regular season, this game definitely like shut the case that Russ can be the answer or anything like that. He is merely like a stopgap little solution here. But almost regardless of what they do at quarterback, if they walk into next year with one receiver who you can barely count on anyways, because George Pickens is George Pickens. Tomlin's like, well, maybe he was late to the Christmas game. Maybe he wasn't.
Oh, so long ago. I think was his exact quote.
Yeah, it was so long ago. And like, this is maybe version 4.0 of Pickens's effort and focus and things like that. If you walk into next season with one guy at the pass catcher position and like just this mid-level of skill position players, mid is being kind, like hovering around it, you just don't get it. Like you're an unserious franchise competing in the AFC where you can't be doing stuff like this.
Their division has Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson in it. That's just their division. And not even talking about the conference. And trust me, the Bengals have plenty of stuff for them to get through this offseason. But those are the quarterbacks you're staring at for 4 games a year and potentially the playoffs, on top of Mahomes and Allen and Stroud and Trevor Lawrence and any other guy that could step up over that time period. It's just such a slog in that conference, and it just leaves you wanting more, because it's even like say this Steelers run game had to be legit hard. Any stat you look at, top 5 for them to have a chance. Had to. It wasn't.
They weren't even close.
Not even close. Like 22nd. And trust me, I love the designs. It's Arthur Smith stuff. I really do. Najee Harris isn't getting the job done. Jalen Warren's a good player and a solid player, but he's not like a Saquon Barkley or Bijan, and both of those guys are free agents, by the way. Oh yeah, let's go over the free agents real quick. Both of their quarterbacks, both of their running backs, their left tackle, they're one of their starting corners.
Warren's a restricted free agent.
Restricted,
right?
restricted. Yeah, they'll get him back. Yeah, it makes it easier when I just say it that way. And then they need more pass catchers, like you said. And the one pass catcher that they quote unquote can rely on is George Pickens. This is not like ideal situation and that's just the offense. And then you got defense that's aging. Oh. You got Hayward playing best season he's had in years, and he's still getting older. It's just Patrick Queen. Apparently he was sick, but I mean this wasn't just last week. Not trying. Minka Fitzpatrick is getting called out, which is shocking to me. And that wasn't like an official call out, but that was kind of like people parsing through what everyone was saying.
Intimating. I mean, even TJ Watt, Mark Cavalli, who he's covered the Steelers forever, and he's the Steelers correspondent for the Pat McAfee show. We got to get our own team correspondent on this show, Nate. That's when we really
just
made
the Steelers.
I'll pick almost any other team. Anyways, he noted that TJ Watt last 127 snaps of his 2024 season, 0 tackles, 0 assists, 0 sacks. Tackle? Yeah, I mean, it's just it's tough when your best players on both sides of the ball too, because you want to lump Pickens into this, because he had the one awesome catch against the Ravens here. The last 8 quarters before that were troubling. So I mean, this is, again, it's pretty dire when we're talking about some of the best players. Minka Fitzpatrick, these are guys you should be able to count on, and they're the ones making
the best safety in the league going into this year.
They're the ones making mistakes.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And they have all their picks, okay, except for their 6. They have 3 7s. They're middle of the pack cap space. It's kind of fitting that they're 15th in cap space. And it's like, of course you are. You're the Steelers. Everything's middle of the pack right now. You can swing one way or just a couple moves there. They just have questions at the biggest spots. And even like you and I respect the hell out of Tomlin. I think a lot of people know football respect the hell out of Tomlin because they know what he is and know how good he is. But even that's become a question mark. Not saying that we have it, but it's become a question mark. It's a team full of question marks at the most important spots.